10 leading Australian universities face losing more than $1 billion in fees as students remain stranded in China as a result of the coronavirus outbreak. The government's extended travel ban puts more than 65,000 students at risk of cancelling their first semester courses. For more on this, we're joined now live by Vicky Thompson. She is the Chief Executive of the Group of 8, representing Australia's leading universities. Vicky, appreciate your time. Take us through your understanding now of the extent of the impact of this coronavirus and what it does mean in terms of lost fees.
So we've had various estimates. I think Standard & Poor's have put an estimate nationally of a figure around $3 billion, and of course our universities are looking at the immediate economic impact it'll have on our sector and our 8 universities. We have something like 70,000 students who are currently in China or a third country who can't come to Australia at the moment. So we were expecting those students to arrive very soon, this week and in the next couple of weeks to start their courses. So of course our universities are looking at what that impact is upon their universities. But I think more importantly, the issue is really around our students and the health and safety of our students and getting our students here as quickly as possible, and looking at that economic impact in the context of the impact it'll have on the broader national economy. We're not the only ones in this position. You know, the resources sector, the health sector, the wine sector, there's not a sector within this country that is not heavily engaged in trade relations with China. It's very acute for the university sector and it's very visible. But nevertheless, you know, this is an impact that'll flow on to the broader economy. And if I can give you an example of how that will happen. So some of the things that our universities are looking at to mitigate against some of the lost economic, the impact on them, as good prudent managers, which the Minister acknowledged today, is looking at staff freezes, slowing down of capital works programs, seeing if they can access low interest loans, etc. If we actually slow down or stop capital works programs, that has a knock-on impact to tradespeople who will work on particular programs at our universities. So it's apparent that it's not just the universities that are in the frame here, it's actually the broader national economy. And we're obviously working through what that means for us individually.
Absolutely. Just focusing in on those students, I understand ANU is offering free online courses for those unable to actually make it to campus by the end of next month. Is that something that you would expect other universities to follow suit with? What is the plan in terms of trying to get these students still being able to carry on with their studies without physically being present here?
So there's a couple of things that we're doing as a group of universities, and as I said, 70,000 students currently offshore who can't get here. Every single one of our universities is looking at what they can do whilst the students are in China or a third country to access their courses. So that could be remote learning, online delivery, etc. So all of our universities are doing something along those lines. But we're also now looking at what happens when that ban is lifted. We have no idea when that will be, and we'll obviously await the government's advice on that. But we've got a number of students that we need to get here as quickly as possible. So I think there's 100,000 all up, 70,000 for the group of 8. Logistically, we want to get them here as quickly as possible. So what we are doing is talking to the airlines, we're talking to the Chinese embassy about what we can do when the ban is lifted so that we can get them here as quickly as possible. Because even if the ban is lifted on Friday, we know that we're not going to have 70,000 students on planes coming in on Saturday morning. So there's a short-term program, if you like, to work with those students, and we are in contact with those students directly. We've got webinars, Skype, telephone calls. We're literally in contact with them individually. All of our universities are looking at what we can do to provide, you know, online courses, etc. at this present time. But our thoughts now about, okay, what happens when that ban's lifted? What do we need to put in place so that they can get here as quickly as possible and commence their studies as quickly as possible?
Vicky, there are concerns that Australia is far too reliant on Chinese students. Does this crisis highlight that? I see the Centre for Independent Studies has made the case today that this is a massive failure of the university sector because it's inherently risky, it argues, to rely on education exports to citizens who are coming from what it describes as a totalitarian policy state.
So I'll say two things to that. First of all, there isn't a sector in the Australian economy that doesn't have a very strong trading relationship with China. They are, you know, our largest trading partner in the region. So we're not on our own in terms of the trading relationship that we've got with them and the relationship we have with them with our students. The second thing I'd say to you is that we've been taking students from China for 50 years. This is not a new phenomena for us. Sure, those figures have grown because we have a really good education system, and it is in all senses a demand-driven system, if you like. Students want to come to Australia. In my case, they want to come to a top 100 university, and 7 of our 8 universities are those highly ranked universities. They want to come here, they invest a lot of money to come here and do their studies, and then invariably they go back home and they take with them a fantastic experience. So I think it's an easy characterisation to simply say, oh, well, we're too reliant, and you know, your chickens are coming home to roost, and all of the sorts of things that we hear from various critics, if you like. We will continue to have a strong relationship with China, as we should and as we want to.
The tourism sector is calling for a recovery package to help that sector recover from the impact of the virus. Will universities also be seeking some sort of government assistance?
So I can only speak on behalf of the 8 universities that I represent, and at this stage that is not a discussion that we're having with the federal government. But
Can you rule that out down the track? Is that something you're pretty keen to avoid?
It's not something that I'm in a position to rule in or out at this point in time. What we're looking at is the immediate concern, as I said, of how do we look after the students that we've got in terms of their immediate studies, and then when the ban is lifted, how do we get here? In the meantime, we've got, you know, our chief operating officers and our financial people back at the office, if you like, working through their various processes within their universities to look at how they can offset what will be an economic impact on the university and, of course, into the broader economy. Those discussions are, well, they're not discussions that we're having with government, nor are we seeking to have them at this point in time.
Vicky Thompson, appreciate you joining us. Thank you. We all hope that this is a crisis that is near its end so that your sector and others being impacted can move on and recover. Thank you for your time.